the Wattpad algorithm. What is it, how does it work, and how can you make it work for you? Hey fresties, welcome back to another Wattpad Wednesday video. In this video, we're talking all about the algorithm and how you can make it work for you. Last week, I got this request. Thank you very much for requesting. So I figured I would make a video all about the algorithm. First things first, what is the algorithm and what does it do? The algorithm on Wattpad is a lot like the algorithm on any other site, as far as I can tell. Like YouTube, for example, if you are watching a certain type of content, you're going to get recommended more of that type of content. If you watch videos about Wattpad, you're probably going to get more videos about Wattpad showing up in your sidebar. The same thing applies to Wattpad, where if you read one teen fiction story, the books in the sidebar are likely going to be teen fiction stories as well. So to put it simply, the algorithm decides which stories are shown to you on your homepage and in the sidebar or between the chapters of whatever stories that you are reading. Another part of the algorithm that focuses more on numbers are the books that show up in the hot list and the books that show up in the rankings for specific tags. Now, I can't tell you exactly how the Wattpad algorithm works. I don't work at Wattpad, I don't know this stuff, but going off of what we know from other websites and what we can just see from Wattpad itself, more engagement means that your story is more likely to be recommended. But how exactly does the algorithm decide which stories get recommended to which readers, and how can you use the algorithm to not only make your story more likely to get recommended, but make it more likely to get recommended to the right readers, the right demographic, and the audience that actually wants to click on it? We'll get to that in a second, but the first thing I'm going to talk about are the basics. Like I said, if your story has high engagement, then it's more likely to be recommended. Now, this does not just equate to high numbers of reads, votes, or comments. More so, it's these things in relation to each other. If your story has 100,000 reads, but it only has 4 comments, that's not a very engaging story, clearly. So we want to get as many reads with as many votes and comments as we possibly can. So how can you do these things? Well, when it comes to getting readers, as I have suggested in the past, I recommend doing read for reads, but I recommend doing them the right way, which I will link my video up in the card above on one or other side, I can't remember. Another way is good, smart self-advertising, which I am going to do a video on next week. It's really important to do self-advertising the right way and not to go around just throwing your book at people who don't want you to throw it at them. Like, don't just go leaving your link on random people's message boards. That is not the type of self-advertising that I am talking about. So stay tuned for next week, where I will delve into all the ways to do and not do self-advertising. Another way to get more reads is to have a good cover and a good description that are going to lure in readers. That is basically the most crucial part of any Wattpad story, I think, when it comes to drawing in an audience. And lastly, another great way to get reads on your book is to join awards within the Wattpad community. You can just search up for like awards 2021 and you will see some that are open, some that are already closed, and just go to the ones that are open, submit your book if you fall into the right categories, all that good stuff. I might do a video on that in the future as well, because when I was first starting out on Wattpad, awards were so fun. Like, I was addicted to entering them. All right, so that covers reads, but how do you get more comments and votes? Well, when it comes to comments, you have the very simple thing of asking questions at the end of each chapter. Sometimes readers want to comment, but they just don't know what to say. I've been in that boat many times myself as a reader. I want to let the author know that I'm there and that I like their work, but I just don't know how to comment. I don't know what to comment on. If you ask questions, you are leaving the perfect opportunity for any shy readers to come out of their shell and tell you what they think. These questions can be related to the story, where you ask, what you think of what a certain character said or did in that chapter, or they can just be totally random. Like, if it's the first day of fall, you can ask your readers what their plans are for the fall. You can ask if they're going to carve pumpkins this Halloween. Just random stuff. It doesn't have to be related to the story if nothing particularly interesting happens in that chapter that you can really think of a question for. And personally, I think that it's best to leave 2 or 3 questions at the end of the chapter so that you are getting the most engagement possible, especially since sometimes your reader won't have an answer to a certain question, but the one right underneath it, they might have an answer for. And if readers don't want to answer them, they can just skip right over it. It's not something that's really going to annoy any readers, at least as far as I've seen. Now, the third piece of engagement, which is voting, is pretty much always the hardest thing to get on Wattpad, because a lot of people will only vote if they think that that chapter in particular was like absolutely spectacular and that it really stood out from all the other chapters, but other people will just vote every chapter just to show that they care. Some readers, they forget to vote. They forget that it's even a thing that exists on Wattpad. So what you can do to really encourage readers to vote is to make a banner for the end of your chapters on every story. You can make it with the same image as your cover, that kind of a thing. I will put up some examples here of banners that I have made for my stories in the past, and you can just write, you know, hey, please leave a vote if you liked it, or votes are really appreciated, that sort of a thing. And a lot of readers will see that, they'll be reminded that voting exists, and they will click the little star. So all of this engagement is going to make it so your story is more likely to be recommended to readers. But there's another element that I have not talked about, which is reading list ads. By this, I mean when people add your story to their reading list. There really isn't a way to promote people to do this apart from just asking, which I really don't see on Wattpad. I mean, feel free to ask if you want to, but it's not really something that I think is common to do on Wattpad. It's more so you just sort of wait and see if people will add it to their reading list. But there are ways to make it more likely that your story will get added to a reading list. Something that's really important for this is to have a very clear genre for your story. All the stories on my profile so far are young adult stories, teen fiction, high school stories, so they get added to a lot of reading lists that are all about, you know, high school or teenagers, that sort of a thing, because the genre is very clear. Another thing that really encourages people to add your story to a reading list is if it has a very clear trope involved with that story. People will make reading lists based off of love triangles or enemies to lovers or, you know, dark academia, boarding school, murder, mystery type stuff. If there is a trope, there's probably a reading list for it out there, and if your story really emphasizes that it has that trope, then you are probably going to end up on many of those reading lists. Now, if you have your own reading lists on your profile, there's no reason why you can't put your own books in those reading lists. So consider yourself somewhat of a curator, putting all these books together and adding your book in with a mix of books that are very similar. If people see books that they know that they like on that reading list, and then they also see yours that they haven't checked out yet, they're probably going to check it out. This also helps for exposure because, as far as I can tell, if people read one story and then commonly go on to read another story, like several readers follow that pattern of reading one story and then reading another story, those two stories will be recommended with each other. So if you can get it so that your story is being recommended under a very popular story because readers are reading one after the other, then that's really going to help your numbers. But I will say that clearly this isn't something that you can manipulate that much, but it's worth considering when you make your reading lists. Now, let's talk about tags. The 3 types of tags that you want to have on your story are accurate tags, specific tags, and popular tags. Again, I don't know this for sure, but as far as I can tell, high interaction and high engagement are what boost your rankings within the tags. So if you have a story tagged with high school and it only has 1,000 reads, but somebody else has a story tagged with high school that has 100,000 reads, if your story is getting more comments and votes in relation to those 1,000 reads than that person is getting in relation to their 100K, your story is going to rank higher in the high school tag than their story, even though they have more reads. As far as I can tell. Again, disclaimer, I don't know this for sure. It's just me putting what I know about algorithms together to form what I'm pretty sure is the way that the system works on Wattpad. And also, disclaimer, this could change at any moment. Like, they could update the website tomorrow and everything could be totally different, and everything that I'm saying could just be totally irrelevant. So keep that in mind. Now, the reason why you want these 3 types of tags on your story is for different reasons for each one. Accurate tags are obviously so you don't mislead your readers and you're not getting people who are clicking on your story expecting a romance and getting a murder mystery. That would cause you to have a lot of confused and upset readers. Another reason why you want accurate tags is because the hot list on Wattpad can be filtered by tags. So if somebody's looking on the hot list for a romance that takes place in medieval times, they can filter the romance hot list by the tag medieval, and your story will be more likely to show up there. And since it's an accurate tag and you're not just putting something in there that you think is going to get people to click on it, people will not be disappointed. The reason you want to use specific tags is because these tags are going to be less crowded. A specific tag would be to use a tag like dance school instead of just high school, or a tag like zombies instead of just horror. Again, you want to make sure that these tags are accurate and actually fit your story. Since these tags are less crowded, it's going to be easier to rank higher in them, and the readers who are looking for that specific thing are going to be more likely to find your story. But again, since it's something that's so specific, it's going to be a little less searched for, so this might not get you as many readers. So that brings us to our third type of tag, which are popular tags. Now, these tags are going to be very crowded. These are tags like love, school, teenagers, tags that are just one simple word that encases a huge part of your story, usually the setting or characters, or a very popular trope like love triangle or enemies to lovers. Obviously, these tags are much harder to rank in, but it is still totally worth trying to. It's still totally worth tagging these on your story, because if you do rank in these tags, wow, it is a huge boost in your engagement. It is really going to get you reads and clicks. I have ranked #1 in teen fiction before, and that was like, wow, that was a huge boost on my story. So just because it's less likely to happen, don't shrug it off, don't not do it, because there's always a chance. The last thing we're going to talk about is the hot list, which again, I don't think that Wattpad has ever really disclosed exactly how the algorithm works for the hot list, but as far as I can tell, it works again through engagement and interaction. So the more of that you are getting, the higher that your story is going to rank. Again, this is relative to your numbers, not overall. A story with 1 million reads could be ranking 30 spaces lower than even a story with 100 reads. I've seen it happen before. And once again, correct categorization will make this the most beneficial for you and will prevent confused or upset readers. So don't put your contemporary romance story in the thriller section just because the thriller section has less books. It's not going to get you a good reputation with readers, and it's not going to get you the audience that you're looking to get. Thank you. So these are my best tips for using the Wattpad algorithm to your advantage and really getting the most of what you can out of it. I hope that it helped. I hope it helped you, understand the algorithm a little bit better. Again, I don't know if I even fully understand it myself, but from what I have gathered over the years on Wattpad, this is what I think that I know. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to the person who requested this video. I hope it helped you, and I hope that I will see you guys in the next one. First things first, I can't talk today. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. That's freaking easy. This stuff is hard.